What are a few highlights, Claude?
I love audition days, when we audition lots of people for troops, and I know it's a nerve-wracking process, but it's just so fascinating to get a snapshot of where we're at and watching all the beautiful dancers come through.
I can always remember when Kieran first auditioned and David Shackelford was on the panel and he was like, "Who are you?" And he was amazed at this young gun.
And the same things happened with Harry and Kate Seacombe, and all sorts of people have gone through that kind of same thing.
Some of my highlights, and I've been reduced to tears, were when we've watched young dancers end up being like these superstars and achieved great things, like John and Nicole when they won Helzer. I was in tears. Josh and Noni when they won, I was in tears. Anthony and Sarah when we all flew over to New York to cheer everybody on, and watching Anthony and Sarah compete with John and Nicole against all the best in the world. That was
a great year. The Helzer Poppin' year was a tremendous year. And when Scotty and Fee went over and won competition in New York and got third place, and that was very exciting.
Yeah, that was cool calling you after that.
Yeah, that's great.
So there are a few highlights, but there's so many.
Lots of people ask me how I met Scott, how we first met, and in fact I will always remember it, obviously, being at my computer at work at the Victorian Arts Centre and receiving an email entitled "To Whom It May Concern," and he explained he was a single guy, played saxophone, saw Lindy Hop, got my email address from some random place at the bottom of a website somewhere through Rob Bloom, interested in dancing, and that's really good. So I emailed him back and we organised to meet at the House of Fools in Footscray, where the Pearly Shells were playing. And then he joined my classes in February at Two's Company, and as with most ballroom dancing studios, they worked in terms. You had to sign up for a term, and within that term of beginner lessons I was teaching, there was a mix of dance styles. Scotty actually sabotaged the whole class and made everybody learn Lindy Hop for a whole term instead of branching into other dance styles as well, and that was, fine by me. I was happy to teach whatever the class wanted. And from that class, several people went into what later became Swing Patrol classes. Scotty said to me, "Have you ever thought of going on your own, taking classes on your own outside of being employed in the studio environment?" And I had, nearly did the year before with somebody else. Scotty and I talked about it, and he said, "What about me?" And, would you do a class? And we talked about that. We planned and planned and planned for 6 months or so before we started actually teaching the classes in August. And I think that's kind of what set up our good working relationship and starting to understand how we could work together. And so Swing Patrol was born.
The name Swing Patrol has served us really well. We actually got inspired by songs. We wrote down all these songs, and there was a song called American Patrol by Glenn Miller, and we thought Swing Patrol. Now, we got that idea off the Pearly Shells Swing Orchestra in Melbourne, and they chose a song as well. And it's been great. So every time we hear that song, Claudia and I look for each other. We sort of see American Patrol as our little song, because that's where Swing Patrol came from. We actually did think of the name In the Mood Dance School, because we thought that's the only song everyone would know, and we know we would have failed miserably if we'd kept that name. We named it a little cafe in South Bank, near where Claudia worked, and yeah, we're really proud of the name Swing Patrol. It's got great branding now, especially in Melbourne, but hopefully soon a bit more in Sydney and Tassie, and we're really excited. So the first night was August the 5th, 1998, and Claudia and I had spent all this time dropping flyers all around South Melbourne, and we taught on carpet. We didn't sort of think it was important. We just wanted to create this joyful environment and share the dance. And so a few people did laugh at us, but within about 6 to 7 weeks, we had like 60, 70 students, and we made them wear vests. We bought all these $3 vests at op shops, and we tried to create this thing where you walked in, you were back in the 40s. And yeah, it was at the Rising Sun Hotel in South Melbourne, tiny little pub where they had a big band downstairs where there was no room to dance. But all the students just drank after class. No one could dance for months, because I certainly didn't really know how to teach. I was just helping Claudia any way I could. And we loved it. We had 23 students in our first night, and I remember Claudia hugging me afterwards with excitement. It was pretty cool. That was our first day. So when we left the Rising Sun eventually, due to structural cracking issues, because we were thumping upstairs, we didn't teach our dancers back in '98 to be light.
And that was on carpet.
We actually first moved to South Yarra Baptist, believe it or not.
Yes,
and
we did.
everybody left because it was so uncool.
Yeah.
And then we finally got into Silver's Nightclub, and Swing Patrol became cool again.
Not long afterwards, we were also teaching at the Cotton
Club
Lounge
something like that. It's
in
closed
Toorak Road,
since.
and they were kicking us out, and that's when Silvers kind of came in, which was cool.
So yeah, it's the coolness of the venue has played a huge part in Swing Patrol, and we do need our like nice little halls because it's good learning environment, but to have cool places for people to dance adds this great thing called vibe.
It has been one of the keys. I mean, people love going to it's a social dance, so to go to a social venue to do it kind of works.
Anyway, but yeah, so venues has been a huge part of us, and we're like gypsies at Swing Patrol. We actually still don't have our own venue. One day we will.
One day.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
That would be nice.
We should get on with it.
Yeah. One question I'm being asked a lot at the moment is, where did I learn Lindy Hop? Because they can trace it all back to the beginning of Swing Patrol and back to Scotty and I teaching, and Scott being a beginner, and then tracing it back to me. I learnt Lindy Hop from Rob Bloom, who is an Englishman who moved to Sydney. After learning, he learnt Lindy Hop from Ryan and Jenny Francois in London, moved to Sydney and started doing some Lindy Hop there, and a group of rock and roll teachers down in Melbourne. We had heard of Lindy at that stage. There'd been a couple come out from London and show us a little bit of Charleston, and we scratched our heads and wondered what that was. So then when Rob moved to Sydney, he was kind of the source. So we got him down to Melbourne every 6 weeks or so, and he taught workshops for dance teachers pretty much, and we pulled it together and we formed an organisation called Vic Lindy Hop. Vic Lindy Hop had been running a good couple of years before Swing Patrol started, and through that time I was also looking at videos by then. The Can't Top the Lindy Hop Frankie Manning 80th birthday series, where a lot of people learnt from that video set. So it was really from that video set and from Rob initially that I took on Lindy's styling. Then Marcus and Barbel's tapes and other tapes that were coming through from America, and then started going to dance classes and camps overseas. By that time Scotty had started, and we went to Catalina together in 1998, 99, somewhere around there. And so the learning kind of continued, but yeah, that was my initial exposure to Lindy Hop.
One thing I really love is that Claudia and I have taken some massive risks, and we never will die wondering. And sometimes we've been really blessed by taking those risks. One of them was getting Frankie Manning out very early on when we had no money, and it cost us a lot of money, and we didn't know if people would come, but the whole rock and roll community of Victoria supported it, and of course all the current swing dancers, and it was just a massive event in terms of, you know, just to relate the whole dance to the history of Frankie, and it was so wonderful for Melbourne. Of course, we've taken other risks like running a New Year's Eve event 18 months ago, and that hurt us badly, and yeah, we'll never do that again. But yeah, taking risks has been part of our journey, and we'll take some more. We put a bush dance on last year. It was a little bit crazy, but yeah, we love just doing different things, and that's been part of making sure our journey's interesting.